Chapter 2.4, Sculpture. Okay, so let's look at this. It's a freestanding sculpture, also known as an in the round. That just means that you could walk around it and look at it from multiple viewpoints. A relief, though, is a sculpture that has a support. So in this case, this is a very low relief, and it's just kind of carved off from the wall. Here is a high relief, and you can tell that it has high relief because of the highlights and the shadows that's created. A bust is basically a portrait from the shoulders up. That's three-dimensional. There's different methods of sculpture. There's subtractive, where you, as it says, carve, drill, or chisel. You're taking away unwanted material. There's also the additive process, where you're constructing and adding material to make the final work. A lot of us, when we think of carving, we think of woodworking. But notice the chisels used for woodworking, and those are very different looking from the chisels you see here that would be used for marble, or a similar stone to marble. This is a sculpture by Michelangelo. It's called The Prisoner, and I just thought it would be nice to see where that marble is actually from, which is in the lower picture. Modeling is an additive process. A lot of artists will use clays or wax, and there are various tools for that as well. Believe it or not, that top right, the sculpture that is the man that's looking away is actually made of wax, and the actual actor is staring directly at us. Beneath him is a artist who's making a sculpture out of clay, and it's hollow on the inside, so when they put it in the kiln, it doesn't just explode. A lot of times armature's used. We could see that there's this little wire structure there to the left, and then the clay could be built up or waxed around it. All right, casting is a very long process, and I actually have it broken into 9 steps for us. Here is a lost wax cast sculpture, and then it just briefly shows you this. This is all in your book, but now the Art Museum in Montgomery has a really great exhibit of what lost wax casting is. And here you see it's in clay. This whole process uses a rabbet. They have different carving tools. So then they take from the original sculpture and then they make a plaster mold, which is going in step 2. The plaster mold is made from the model in order to cast a wax form, and this can allow it to have multiple copies, and it also allows the wax form to be hollow. Next is step 3, where the wax from its cast is worked both hot and cold. The cold tools are used to carve wax, while the heated tools are used to add, model, and shape the wax. Then the next step is basically creating the sprues, which, or you could say vents and cups, which are the plumbing through which the molten bronze will fill the mold and allow gases to escape. This creates basically like the pouring structure of a softer wax. That's what you see below, the lighter yellow, and it's easier to detach later. The next step is basically creating the investment mold. And in this image you can see what they actually use. It's 2 parts plaster, 1 part luto, and the other is brick dust, which are combined together with water to make it liquid. This investment mixture is poured into a temporary mold which surrounds the sprued wax model, reinforcing the layers of chicken wire surrounding the form to strengthen the investment. So here's what it looks like. You can actually see some of that chicken wire around it, and there you can see where the rabbit is. The hardened investment is placed into a kiln, which is like a furnace, to burn out the wax. It has to completely burn out, and this is why it's called lost wax casting. The next step, and this I just wanted you to see what the bronze would look like. So they would take, like you can see that block of bronze, they would melt that down. And here, this is from the University of Georgia. There's an image where they're getting ready to make a bronze pour. So the bronze has been melted down. It's molten. It can go into a liquid. And bronze itself is made with a combination mostly of copper, but with some tin, zinc, and some lead. Okay, next is basically the pour. They take that hot molten bronze and they put it into the mold, and then they have to break up the mold, and when they do that, then they have the actual sculpture that you see here. Then this next step is removing the investment so that you've got the, like we mentioned before, the breaking it apart. But here, now we're ready to do what's called the chasing, which is considered part of step 7. So the main thing that they want to remove are the sprues that you see here. And I think that's one right on the back attached to the head. So how do they do that? They're going to basically take a saw or a chiseling tool to remove it. And here they actually show you the chasing tools. And so that's the chasing is for step 8. I'm not sure why it's discolored right here, but it is. I don't know if you can see that, but it's kind of interesting to me. So the last step is basically after it's been, all of those sprues have been removed, they've cleaned it up. Now if they want to, they can add a patina. There are hundreds of different chemicals combinations that you can use to have different effects of the bronze. These are some of the more common, and you may see things outside that have patina on them, like I think of this one in particular, and that can happen over time. But if you're wanting it to happen quickly, you do a chemical mixture. I know some use Miracle Grow to do that kind of teal turquoise looking color on sculpture pieces out in gardens, for example. And here is what it looks like at the very end. There's a sauce furnace, which is in Birmingham, that takes groups, and you can create your own cast mold piece. Other methods of sculpture is, for example, we have earthworks. Artists actually work with just nature and basically manipulate it, move it to make that artwork. An artist that we're going to look at was definitely inspired by Native American mounds, in particular the Great Serpent Mound in Ohio, which inspired his piece that was in the Great Salt Lake in Utah. It's called the Spiral Jetty. And he had a group of people help him, and they just took the natural sand or dirt right there along the edge of the lake and just kept pouring it and then adding rocks on the top until they made the spiral. Okay, so construction. Construction is a process that was developed in Soviet Union, and it was very different from previous methods because they were not necessarily trying to make something solid, and they really had more in common with a factory than what was typical in an art studio, and they did mostly welding. This is the example in your book. And here the artist is not, looking for that solid sense of space. Instead, they're actually having more of like an open volume sculpture. They're implying flat planes, solid masses are just basically removed, and they want to show more of the construction of the work. An assemblage is a sculpture that takes different objects and assembles them together. It's usually always three-dimensional. Ready-mades and found objects are usually used in an assemblage technique. Here's one from your book, The Liberation of Aunt Jemima. The artist here has collected various objects. We'll get into that in just a minute. But in this one, she's exploring themes that are personal and of community identity. And her art examines the survival of African traditions and challenges stereotypes. So here are some of the found objects that she used. I like that I had no idea when I first saw hers, but you can see that little frame, and there's an area you could actually put a pencil to take notes, and then it's just neat. Do you see that? That's just really neat that she took that found object like this and just manipulated it to work for her. And then she kind of hides the very top of it, and she probably repainted it. But anyway, so that's one piece, and then you can see the background. I'll go back to it again. Uses cutouts from different ads, and then the clouds are actually cotton. Let me go back. You can see those at the bottom. So she's been liberated. She's in the clouds. Here's the cutouts from different ads. So that's found objects, but it's used in an assemblage. Okay, so ready-mades are works of art that do use everyday objects and present them as artworks. Usually they don't really change or alter it. They just use it as it is. And in this case, with the stool, they're just how they have arranged them together. Which I really like this one because it just, I don't know, I like the material of wood, of course, but then I like how it has that open volume quality to it. Here's a ready-made from your book by Picasso. It's called Bull's Head. And just like with the stools, you know, you still can clearly see, it's very recognizable as to what the objects are. Like we've got a bicycle seat and bicycle handles that he's just put together. And he kind of did this for fun, like a sense of humor to it. Appropriation is when the artist takes an older artwork and they alter the way it appears and changes the original meaning or purpose. So here we've got the original Mona Lisa, then we have Duchamp's version, and now we have Andy Warhol's version. Kinetic sculpture is a type of art that is moving. It could either be impelled by wind, personal interaction, or by motors. This is a beautiful piece that's wind propelled, and it just makes this, I don't know, it almost looks like a jellyfish. Like when it's actually moving, you can see it. If you wanted to see a video of it, you could just look the artist up, and there's several great examples out there. Installations are artworks. They can be interior, just like you see on the right. It looks like a series of balloons. I don't know if it's a balloon or a special kind of ball that the artist made with lights into that not railroad station, but it actually looks like storefronts there. And then this one is on the exterior, which I just wanted you to know they can be either way. But the whole point of the installation is it requires usually various materials, so it's sort of an assemblage, but they are installed to give a new atmosphere, a new experience to that location. For example, the Tate Modern Museum in London, if you'll notice the windows in the back, I'll start with the one on the far right. Here they are, they're behind this bright white circle, and then here they are again. So they invite installation artists to come in and change out this open space. And here they just made a garden that you could walk through. Here there's mirrors in the ceiling, hundreds of light bulbs, and mist being, I think the sprays are at the very top. So it's more of like a humid, warm environment. And then over here, it's very playful. They actually created a slide, so it's an interactive piece in that way. I saw this installation in Atlanta, and it was just so breathtaking. It's a light installation, and the lights are set with solar panel, and I guess as the sun was setting, the lights started to glow, and then once the sun had completely set, it was just the colors were just very bright and bold. So gorgeous.